So thanks everybody for joining us today on this event where we're going to be covering how to use hyper-personalization, image personalization, website personalization, all of those sort of tools focused primarily towards SaaS businesses, how to do that in your outreach, in email, in LinkedIn, and all your other kind of user engagement channels that you might be using, and how to do that effectively and significantly boost your conversion. So just a little couple of housekeepings to start with before we jump into there. As you just heard, this webinar is being recorded, so just bear that in mind, especially if you're going to be coming and talking or mentioning anything. There is going to be a permanent record of that. Also, to start with, obviously your audio is muted, so if you want to come on and ask a question, join the panel, then remember to unmute yourself. If you do have any questions as we go through this, whilst this is a bit of an event, I'd love it to be a two-way process. So if you have any questions as we go, pop them into the Q&A function. It will be on the black bar wherever you see it, above or below your video or your screen that you're seeing, and we'll answer those as we go. So we can answer them when they're most topical. As we've already said, this event is being recorded, and we will share a copy of that with everybody, with all the attendees, everybody that registered after the event, and it'll also be available at the Hyperrise Academy, where we include recordings for all of our webinars and all of our video education. If there are any other issues or anything else that's going on, something's going on, or I've managed to mute myself or something crazy like that, just raise your hand and we'll stop and pause and kind of jump over and answer your questions or sort you out, and then we'll move on. So hopefully that's the housekeeping. Now, in terms of introduction to myself, who am I? Who is it that we're talking to? It's obviously my name, Ian Naylor. I'm the co-founder of Hyperrise, obviously the image personalization toolkit that I mentioned before. But before that, I've been starting online businesses for the last 23 years now, and majority of those have been SaaS businesses. Obviously, Hyperrise is a SaaS business. I founded another business called App Institute 11 years ago, which is a code-free mobile app business focused towards small businesses, again SaaS, and a couple of other SaaSes in between and before that. So in terms of my experience of talking today about how we can aid in SaaS, I feel like I've got a good handle on that in terms of running several SaaS businesses and seeing where those uplifts are. And I'll come back to that in a while. Other than that, we have, with Hyperrise, we're in our third year now, and just over 2,000 customers and growing quite rapidly. Other than that, I'm a father of three, and in my spare time, as if there's any spare time, when you're a father of three and running a startup, if there was any spare time, before COVID, I used to race soapboxes. Build your own car and race it, throw yourself down a hill, essentially. So that's me. Hopefully, we're going to have some fun today, as well as learn some things. But like I say, any questions as we go, please fire them up straight in. So we've already ticked off a couple of things in terms of welcome introduction and maybe a little bit about Hyperrise, but maybe sometimes it's good to take a step back before we go forward. And what I wanted to talk about was why image personalization. And there's lots of reasons why image personalization. Now, I can bring all sorts of stats and customers, that we have and case studies. But I think the first reason, or one of the first reasons, was as I mentioned before, my previous experience of working with other SaaS businesses, founding other SaaS businesses. My first very business, actually, in 1998, was a car import business, and that was the very first time I used image personalization, and it had a massive impact where we would personalize quote packs, which would include a picture of a car, and on the number plate we would personalize it with the person's surname to a private number plate, and then got great commissions off that. It ended up being the sales leader for that organization. But from that initial lesson, so many years ago, I've taken that forward in every business I've ran. And one of the bigger ones of those was App Institute, which is a leader in its field of the code-free mobile app building platforms. And one of the things that we did that revolutionized that business, that was one of the many seeds, for creating Hyperrise, was that we changed the narrative of our business and how we reached out. So rather than using many different channels, email one of them and reaching out to people and saying, hey, you can use our platform to build your own mobile app, which, to be honest, wasn't a very sexy call to action, certainly not in the crowded channel like email. But when we changed that narrative to, hey, we've built your app, click here to claim it, the change was, dramatic. And so we used these personalized images like you can see here, these examples. One thing you'll notice throughout today's presentation is that I use Apple, or specifically Tim Cook from Apple, as a proxy for my personalization examples. So you'll notice throughout the examples, a lot of the examples I'm sharing today, you'll see Apple as the business or Tim Cook as the prospect. And that's so whenever you see Apple, just think of that as a proxy for dynamic personalization. So whoever received this, whatever their business was, their name or their logo, they would see their logo in these images. But you can see here we've got images for a takeaway restaurant, for a travel business, and for a beautician, yet all personalized to the prospect that reaches those. And so when we were able to segment our data and have personalized images that told the story of, hey, here's your business, yes, it's a templated app, but it's now completely personalized to you. Clicking this button will kind of enable you to have that. It absolutely revolutionized the business. And you can see here 10x our funnel. I mean, we didn't just put personalized images in the email, we also personalized all the landing pages. So when they clicked one of the images, they would also get a personalized landing page. And again, all the products, all the product images, and all of the kind of the labels around there were all personalized. You can see again in this one with Apple, and the call to action being there personalized. And that was, like I said, it 10x, it revolutionized that business. What that meant was that we went from a channel that didn't work, which was email, and it became the #1 channel, so much so that we're able to pretty much stop our kind of main channel, which was acquisition via search engine marketing, which we're spending about £70,000 a month on, and be able to just kind of turn that back on just to remarketing and use email as a primary source for kind of lead generation. So saving a huge amount of money, which as a funded business was great to keep hold of more equity. But it was certainly one of the seeds that made me think that this would be a great solution for many different SaaSes, especially kind of in marketing teams. But at the time, to create these sort of templated images, it took a team of developers to create these static templates and then pre-process them for millions of images. And at the time, because this was like 7 or 8 years ago, at the time I thought, great if we could kind of dynamically do that, do that on the fly. And that's kind of really where Hyperrise came from. So I wanted to kind of share a couple of examples of, of some of the genesis there, of the website personalization, of the image personalization, how difficult it was to achieve, how effective, and now kind of with Hyperrise, not only is it going to be effective for your business, but also easy to achieve as well. We used it through all sorts of channels, not just to kind of attract direct customers, but also resellers as well, kind of showing how the platform could look if it was white labeled, and kind of branded under their business, or even direct marketing, creating personalized postcards, and using kind of Google Maps type data to be able to reach out. And what we found is that with these personalized postcards, we put personalized QR codes on there. So when you scan the QR code, you're going to get through to a personalized landing page. And what that taught us when we monitor all of that the amount of people that were scanning these cards was 4 times as many people that were clicking the links and emails. And we already had, after the personalized images, already had a great uplift in terms of the click-throughs from our emails. So to be able to kind of do that kind of an even better conversion rate with direct mail was amazing. And I think we kind of came to the conclusion that when you're sending out a personalized postcard, when it lands on your mat or on your desk, it's kind of, they have like 100% open rate. Like you can't help but see the personalization, the imagery or whatever that's in there. And so that obviously creates a massive impact that kind of in terms of people that then take up that call to action. But that was, like I say, just a couple of examples of how we've used it in a previous SaaS that help kind of stimulate some of the things that we've done today with Hyperize. But obviously myself being a founder and a kind of a great kind of cheerleader of image personalization, I was curious to see what other people's opinions of that were. And so I did a recent survey on LinkedIn to ask my audience, what they thought. And I had a reasonable a kind of response, almost 300 votes on there. But I was really surprised to see that 86% of people thought that using images in outreach can have a positive impact. But because less than 1% of LinkedIn messages contain an image, so it's kind of, everybody thinks, yes, using images is powerful, but then when it comes to the kind of applying of that, it's not necessarily done. And I think part of that is to do with, it being difficult, or, what image am I going to use, and, how am I going to reinforce that? And sometimes that's kind of more obvious from marketing professionals, but maybe less so from the sales professionals. So in the kind of the outreach, it kind of tends to fall off, which is kind of where, LinkedIn is predominantly an outreach platform in terms of messaging. You kind of see such a low percentage. But the reason why we want to do that, probably the reason why you're on this event now, is because engagement is getting harder, and we do need to work harder to get the sort of levels that we kind of were getting before. Platforms are having more restrictions. It's harder to kind of send out lots of emails without getting in the spam if you're not doing it in a really engaging way. And we're all being bombarded by more and more messages each day, but we all have the same number of hours and minutes, and so the amount of time that we have to comprehend and process and understand will be captured by the message is reducing all the time. And so as marketers or salespeople, we have to work extra hard to try and grab their attention. And that's kind of really where we see statistics like this start to come in play, that as time has gone on and the attention span is reduced, conversion rates drop. And so to get the same amount of customers, the cost goes up. So, you've got two choices. You can spend the same amount of money and get less customers, or, get all the customers that you were getting before, or kind of keep growing, but obviously spending more to do that as the conversion rates change. But there's another way that we can fight against that and against this kind of attention deficit, and that's using image personalization. And the reason for that is that, no surprise that, most kind of communication channels are visual, but it's no surprise to learn that images convey information much more efficiently than text. 60,000 times quicker than text. An image is processed by the brain, according to a scientific study, quite a significant one in terms of how that impacts. But also, the majority of us are visual learners. So when we kind of couple all that together, when we see an image, we process it and understand it so quickly that when there's some personalization embedded inside that image, because that's a little bit different, the brain just kind of puts a brake on the brain and says, stop, pay more attention to this. And that kind of is what referred to as a pattern interrupt. And that increased mind share that the pattern interrupt creates, this psychological behavior, that just leads to more engagement, and obviously more engagement leads to more people understanding it and taking your call to action. So it's really just about kind of working with the kind of the way the brain works and kind of doing it in a delightful way that's going to make a huge difference in terms of creating a moment of delight and getting people kind of to move to that next point of conversion. So from your from the message, from the email, from the LinkedIn message to your landing page, then more personalization there, create that moment of delight again, or continue it, and then get them to convert to booking a Calendly call, or filling in a form, or downloading a white paper, or whatever it is that your call to action is. So that's the basics of what our personal, or why should we use personalized images? Why can they be so effective? Why are they so powerful? But obviously, it's not just kind of useful enough to know, okay, great, okay, I understand the concept, but how to use them, how to make them purposeful, because it's making the images purposeful that really gives us the biggest bang for our buck, as it were. So what I wanted to do over the next couple of slides is just give you some examples of how different SaaS companies that we've used or other kind of clients of ours have used them to kind of create this sort of big impact that we're talking about. So the kind of, certainly on the kind of the sales teams sort of side of the organization, majority of call to actions are book a call, right? And it might be phrased lots of different ways: strategy call, discovery call, sales call, if you really want to be blatant, demo is a popular one. But, all of these events end up with this sort of scenario where, you might be one-to-one or one-to-a-few or one-to-many, but there's this human connection. And so being able to create these like humanized gifts, as it were, has a kind of like a triple effect, because one, we've got the pattern interrupt from the personalization we've already discussed and the power of that. Two, we've got a GIF, so rather than just a static image, it's a kind of animated moving image, and so that the movement draws the eye in, and that's quite powerful as well. And then on top of that, because it's a human face, that triggers more processing in the brain. We've got more capabilities to process human faces than we do like an inanimate object. So having all of those three together, is like a really powerful trifecta. And then of course you've got these examples here, like for example, this guy here where we've got the whiteboard, it's James, and with James, he's got the message on there and he's kind of reinforcing it. So obviously he recorded this just with a blank whiteboard and then just drawing the line, whereas these ones here are actually just stock images from Giphy, so even if it's not the actual person you're reaching out to, being able to kind of create this humanized connection is very powerful. And essentially what's happening is we're kind of leveraging the law of reciprocity, which is this law that kind of says that, if you do something nice for somebody, they're going to feel compelled to respond. And that's kind of really what we're doing, with a smile, with a wave, maybe a cheeky grin, obviously make it suitable for your brand and style. But, and obviously there with the personalization, like you see in this message to Jeff, all leads to creating this event where they feel special, that kind of icebreaker, doors being kicked down, and now you can go on to have a more meaningful conversation. And you get responses like this. You can see from Rebecca, who's responded. Rebecca is the CEO founder of a large marketing organization, and her response to getting this kind of email with this image personalized to her with her logo and her name on it. So very simple personalization, is like, love this, when can we chat? Now that's kind of an over-the-top reaction to a cold outreach email. Let's be honest, nobody loves cold outreach unless it's the person that's doing it and doing it successfully. But we've elevated her kind of feel-good factor from like to love simply by creating this personalization, creating this moment of delight. We can use other psychological tricks with images as well. So, for example, rather than calling it all the things you mentioned before, demo, discovery call, etc., let's refer to it as a coffee and a chat. Much less of an ask, reducing the friction of acceptance, and then having the visualization to reinforce and back that up, like you can see in this example here to Alexandra, where we've kind of got the kind of the prop, as it were, of the coffee cup, and then saying, hey, let's have a chat about growth over coffee. Nice and soft ask, and you start to get responses like this. You can see from Edgar. Again, no kind of junior. He's the kind of director of a demand generation company, so he knows what he's doing. And he's like, I never reply to these emails. This is the first one that worked. I feel like I should get that slogan printed on my T-shirt, because I hear that mentioned to me, a good few times a day from people that I have calls with. So it's one of those things where if you're naturally disposed not to like email, and then when you get an email that's a cold outreach, and then you do respond to it, you feel like you've got to kind of almost justify it. It's, I never replied to cold emails, but this one was great, and so I hear it such a lot, and and so will you when you start to leverage these sort of strategies. But it doesn't all have to be gifts. It doesn't all have to be humanized gifts. Like I say, that they're great for the sales team, that are trying to book calls, get people in their calendar. But we've got other clients, for example, look, obviously this is a SaaS event, so I'm sure you'll all be aware of G2, as any SaaS worth its salt is trying to get into G2 to be ranked, and get all of those lovely leads coming inbound, right? One of the interesting things that G2, who are a customer of Hyperize, what they do as part of their outbound strategy is they're reaching out to SaaS companies saying, hey, if you work with G2, we'll help you become a category leader. And so this is this aspirational message of, working with G2, they can help you become more successful on the platform. And what they're doing is they're visualizing that story with examples of some of the reports that they do produce, but showing kind of like mock-up samples of those to say, this is what could happen if you work with us. When they did that, when they added that to their campaigns, it would increase the reply rates from 15 to 48%, which is a pretty amazing outcome by doing that. And, I'll share this deck with you after the call with the recording. And embedded in here is a video testimonial from Jesse. I won't play it now, but like I say, you'll be free to view it later on. And it's really compelling, some of the things he says about the improvements, how they view email differently now as a channel. So, it's almost an extension of their product now. They're able to do these sort of things. And, he talks about the size. I think it's like 10,000 messages per send, that got this sort of result. So amazing way of kind of showing this aspirational image. This is what will happen if you work with us. You're going to see lots of success. That's a really neat way of doing that in a visual, personalized way. Another way, again, this is kind of more, let's say, in the marketing that we're on the sales side, although of course, you can use these sort of images in your sales outreach as well, is another client of ours, Hubstaff. Now, what Hubstaff do is, they're a timesheet app. So they're all about, helping businesses, got lots of remote workers, manage them, manage their time and location, all those sort of things. So a lot of their kind of customers are not using a timesheet app, are probably doing it all in spreadsheets and that sort of thing. So part of their narrative is, see everything what's going on in one place rather than, a million spreadsheets. And so what they do is they're showing their dashboard in their outreach that kind of visualizes that. But obviously personalizing it to the prospect. So again, it's Tim Cook that I'm personalizing to, and you can see he's number one in the dashboard. The organization drop down is kind of branded to Apple. Even in the app side, we've got the logo, the profile image, and even the map is personalized to Apple. So there's about 12 personalizations in this image. And what that led to was a 3.5x uplift in click-through. So more people taking the call to action. In Hubstaff's case, their call to action was to sign up for a free trial, so self-serve free trial of their product. So rather than humanizing it, which would obviously make sense for booking a call, in this case, it was just getting to the platform. So, putting the product in their hands, saying, hey, this is the product you're about to kind of get access to, led to a massive uplift in this 3.5x. But kind of another one of our clients, Orca, went a little step further than that. So they took their dashboard, but they also had moving elements of their dashboard. So you can see here the different kind of elements of its cloud security app. But again, added in the profile logos and business names in kind of the dashboard element. So not only are you getting to see some of the value. I mean, this graphic doesn't mean much to me as a non-cloud security person, but I've been assured by Orca that if you're responsible for cloud security, this graphic kicks ass. But with the personalization, you've got a double whammy there again of the personalization making you pay more attention, and then when you start to see the details, oh wow, yeah, that's cool. We've got AWS and this and that and Azure all in one graph, top notch. So again, it was a great way of getting people to kind of really pay attention to something that told, a really powerful story, or creating some sort of virality. So obviously there's lots of different ways that we do marketing for our SaaSes, but for example, if we ever do any events, whether they be digital, or kind of in life again, as we're allowed to almost do in lots of places these days. One of our clients, or Ecom World and Ad World, what they do is when you book a ticket for the event, they give you this personalized gift, which obviously is a mock-up of the ticket that you've just registered or bought, personalized to you, with the kind of the suggestion that if you share that on Instagram or on Twitter with relevant hashtags, then you're going to be put into a draw for further prizes and swag and kind of event, attendee of the day and all those sort of kind of extra bits. And so just kind of creates a bit of win-win, the kind of the attendee feels extra special. They've got something that they can do, and which they're more likely to do. Again, the law of reciprocity, because they kind of feel good about this. And then obviously the event gets some virality and kind of referral from that sort of business. But going even further down the funnel, beyond that, when you want to re-engage, or if you've got existing customer base, obviously key thing for SaaS is avoiding churn, and so engaging with them, whether you've got online learning, when they complete a section, kind of celebrating that, or when they subscribe, or this is one that we used to promote our Black Friday offer. There's lots of kind of different ways that you can create a little moment of delight as you go through the journey, which obviously all helps in terms of that engagement. And another of our clients, and this is Reply.io. And this is an interesting one because obviously Reply.io, they know a thing or two about a cold email outreach campaign because that's their whole bag, right? That's what they do. They do cold outreach, a little bit of multi-channel, but it's really kind of, I guess, their core is email. And what they do is they create these diagrammatic kind of banner images to tell the story of what you can do with their product, and then just dropping in some simple personalization. You can see here the logo, the business name, because these are kind of LinkedIn data. They're also pulling in the profile image and obviously getting business name down here. But that led to a doubling in this campaign of replies by simply having this, broken down explanation of what could be done with the product. And they got an even better result with this one. So a little bit more of a simplified version of kind of the banner image we saw before, the diagrammatic one. In this case, they're trying to tell the story of, this is what your old journey looked like when you're using all these different systems to achieve what you can do with Reply, with their multi-channel solution, and then this is the new way. This is like the kind of the pain and the pleasure, as it were. And they just had one simple personalization change in this, just the logo of the prospect they're reaching out to. And that led to a reply rate jumping from 11 to 21%. So, a huge uplift simply by, using this sort of visualization to tell the story. Again, kind of showing, wouldn't it be so nice if we just had this simple solution? Oh, look how kind of simplified that funnel looks. That looks. I'd love a bit of that. So it's kind of creating those sort of emotions on people that have that pain point. And gonna makes a big difference. In fact, what Reply also noticed, of course, the kind of everybody was looking at the kind of the increase in the call to action. In this case, the call to action was to reply, and yes, the reply rate went up over time. But also, what they noticed that over time, the open rate and the deliverability of the emails into the inbox also increased. And essentially, as more people engaged in their campaigns and actually responded, that acted as like a domain reputation improver, or like a domain warm-up almost. So their domain reputation improved because of the increased engagement, and then guess what? More emails landed in their inbox. So that's, again, kind of another example of how we can kind of use different image personalization to kind of reinforce kind of what our kind of outreach perspective is. But what I thought might be fun now is just to have a little quiz. Like I say, don't phone, it's just for fun. But actually what I do have is polling here. So I'm going to launch the poll whilst I talk through this so you can have a little play as we go. So this is another one of our clients, Orca Security. And one of the things that they do is they sponsor events and then get the attendee list and then reach out to attendees and say, hey, you attended this event that we sponsored, let's have a call, let's have a demo essentially. But really what Orca only want to target large enterprises, so businesses with more than 1,000 cloud assets. So they came across this idea of saying, right, okay, we'll have like, a pre-qualifier. You've got to have more than 1,000 cloud assets to attend the call. But if you do, then they'll give you a $200 bribe. So it was just a kind of a way to, kind of remove some of the wheat from the chaff. So they created quite a complicated story, certainly to have in a kind of a coldish outreach. So they created these 3 images to kind of test, if there would be an easy way to help tell that story. And so we've got image 1 that was just a straight up gift card, if you like, with the events logo on there, in this case, Black Hat, their logo as well. And then the personalization being the name in the corner, and obviously the story being the gift card kind of design. Number 2 was, because obviously it was an event, it was having kind of like the stage sort of look, and again having the orca and the black cat logos to create that familiarity of something they'd be familiar with, but then the message in the middle, but then also their own logo on there. So really kind of smashing home the personalization. And then option 3, we had, this is Todd, and Todd's one of the SDRs at Orca. So similar sort of vibing off the gift card, but having Todd there kind of to humanize it a little bit, and the post-it note, just to kind of say, hey, this is the offer, thanks Todd. So out of those 3, who does everybody think is the winner out there? So we've got gift card number 1, 20%. Gift card number 1 never wins. Nobody ever wants the gift card. Number 2, the stage event, 40%, and Todd 44. Oh, it just changed, 38 to the stage and 44 for Todd. So for those that chose Todd 44, you're absolutely correct. It was Todd who got 44% of the votes today, but also kind of won. Let's see if we look at the actual results. Was kind of a 3.1% conversion. So to compare and contrast that, the baseline was a 1.7% conversion. That was what they were doing. That's what they were doing without any personalized images. So that was kind of, whether that was good or bad, like I say, it was kind of like a warm, they weren't completely cold because they'd already attended the event that they'd sponsored. But nevertheless, they all had, an impact and kind of had an uplift. But obviously the one with Todd's face in it was certainly the winner. Now, when we kind of go on to, they didn't stop there. They actually kind of went a bit further and created these humanized gifts for, let's get the poll out again, poll 2, let's go. So in this case, what they did was double down on the humanized element, but use GIFs this time rather than static images, which was kind of our suggestion all along, but they wanted to kind of go through their own kind of proving process. Now, the interesting thing with this is that this was done during lockdown. So we kind of got Steve here in number 1, who was just stood in his hallway, didn't have any props, any nice home office or anything to use, so just a blank wall. We've got Todd, who looks quite regal, I thought, in his kind of home office, but he didn't have a whiteboard, which was kind of one of our suggestions. But what he did have was a picture off the wall, and he's just turned it around, and you can see like the brown tape and everything, and just using that. And then we've got Eric here, who for whatever reason had a green screen and an orca suit at home, but God love him, he came out with this image. Now, hands up, I thought it was going to be Todd that won this, and looking by everybody else's results, we're seeing that looks to be the case also. Oh, I mean, it is tight between Eric and Todd, but poor Steve, he's really lagging behind. But yeah, let's have a look. Let's see what we got. So we ended up with Todd being the winner, and like I said, that was my pick as well. But you'll be surprised to see, I mean, Todd wasn't far behind, to be fair, but Eric was the winner. And at the time, I kind of consoled myself as the expert by getting it wrong, by saying, oh, this is because it's lockdown and everybody needs a laugh. But, that was kind of best part of 2 years ago, and he's still using this image now, or a version of it. And he's still getting a good result, so, and still doing really well with it. So I think maybe because cloud security is quite somber, I don't know, but it certainly triggers a pattern interrupt like you wouldn't believe. And when you look at the, Brian said everyone likes an orca. Yeah, absolutely. Kind of free willy and all of that. But when we look at the actual kind of the hard stats, as it were, and look at the numbers, this was a campaign of like 7,000 in total, 7,000 prospects. And the baseline test was 700. And what we can see is it actually generated 12 bookings. So if they'd have sent out the whole campaign just to the baseline with no personalized images, they would have maybe got 120 bookings. But they actually got an additional 178 in that. They actually got 262 over over the baseline establishment. So that's amazing. The even more amazing thing is if they'd have just gone straight to the gifts, they would have probably got close to 400 bookings. So if you think about the bookends, bookends of bookings. It was like somewhere between 120 no personalized images to somewhere like 400, for the optimized personalized images, which is, night and day, amazing, like 3x uplift if they, when they kind of do that campaign, the outreach to the events, by simply going straight into the gifts, which of course they have been doing since. So an amazing case study, I thought, at least, of how to do that. So again, pausing for breath. No questions so far. I'll take that as a good sign that everything has been clear. But hopefully what we've seen and learned so far is that personalized images are good. Personalized images can be used in lots of different ways to make them purposeful, whether it's screenshots of your SaaS, whether it's moving images of your team, whether it's aspirational images that help tell a story or diagrammatically visualize something. There's lots of different ways that we can use that to trigger these pattern interrupts. It's going to significantly improve engagement. And as we've seen from some of these case studies, that can be 2, 3, 4, 10 times better than kind of what you're doing at the moment. So what I want to do now is kind of jump into kind of how do we create these images. So let's get out the deck, because it's kind of gets a bit boring, doesn't it, being in this deck all the time. Let's jump into the tool and have a real look at kind of how we can kind of create these and use them in our outreach. So what I'm going to do, first of all, I'm going to go to my images section and I'm going to choose create a new image. Now we're in the image editor, we can see we've kind of got all of these tools here on the left to be able to add personalized text or logos or other elements which we can layer into our image. We've got our image canvas in the middle, and we've got all our settings on the right. So the first thing we do to create a personalized image is just click the canvas to get started and choose an image that we're going to add in there. Now what we can do, we can either select an image that we already have in our library. As you can see, I've got lots of tests and meme images and all sorts of different things from different campaigns. So we can upload any sort of image, whether obviously be a GIF, animated GIF, PNG, JPEG, SVG, or any sort of image format. We can upload those. If you have uploaded one before, they'll be in your image gallery. Or alternatively, what we can do is we can record a GIF. So if you want to create this humanized sort of style, what we can do is record a GIF. And in this case, we've got our webcam, and we can be waving, smiling, having a drink. Or one of my favorites is to have a prop. Excuse me, I just grab it and have a prop like a whiteboard or something. So in this case, just having a little whiteboard. There we go. Oh, the sun's shining this time of day. I should have had this ready earlier. Apologies. Right, so we've got the whiteboard there. So what I'm going to be doing is just kind of pointing at it. So I'm going to click record. We're choosing 2 seconds. What means it's going to record 2 seconds and then it will just loop. So we've always got something. So then what we can do. So we've got our GIF now. What we've got is we've got the prop of the whiteboard where we can put something in, or we've got the flash in the middle there, so we can put the business name there. So what I'm going to do is select that and add that into my canvas. And so now I can just start doing is add some personalization into here. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose specifically this kind of area where it all got a bit washed out from the sun. It's kind of the brightest area, but just use it. And all I'm going to put in there is just the business name, just to kind of really kind of draw that out, and maybe kind of have a big blocky font there. And also let's just change the font color, make it a lot bigger, and maybe also center it as well. So what we've got there is we're going to have the business name there, and maybe also we could kind of add a shape like an arrow pointing to it or something like that. So again, we've got different arrows and those sort of things. Maybe we can make it black as well. And we can rotate that. Maybe we want to make it a bit smaller. And maybe also, just for good measure, let's just put in their logo. So we're just going to help in telling a little story here. That we've been doing maybe a brainstorm about them. We could use that in a narrative. So then now, well, let me change this very quickly to my usual personalization buddy. of Tim Cook. So now you can see in this case, we've got, I've just put in some example data, tim@apple.com, of course, and now we can see we're putting through the Apple name. We kind of got this kind of smiley face with the Apple logo in it. So now obviously we could go a bit further, like so we could add maybe some more text in here. Maybe what we can say is, again, let's just style this up very quickly. Maybe this one we can change the font to be something more like it's been handwritten, like with a permanent marker, that sort of thing. And then we could, or let's see, I would just say for, and then say first name, right? So we're going to have like for Tim, right? So now we've kind of got some personalization on there. It looks like it's been written on the board, and I've also kind of got this kind of smiley face sort of thing. And of course, again, we can make this much bigger, but you get the idea that within a matter of moments, we can create these personalized images, whether that's through uploaded images you already have, or by recording a GIF. We can then use in our outreach. And in terms of using it in the outreach, it's very simple to do. Essentially, what we've created here is an image template. So let's just call this smile, because of the little smiley kind of face. And now what we can do is, if I want to add this into an outreach campaign, whatever integration, whatever platform I'm using, whether it's CRM or email platform, we've got hundreds of different platforms we integrate with. So you can simply select, whatever platform it is you're using, with MailChimp, Mailshake, Salesforce, you name it, we integrate with it. In this case, I'm just going to choose Active Campaign, simply kind of. And then what we get is specifically for Active Campaign, we have our image template, and we can just add that into our email templates. In this case, I'm going to look at the Active Campaign integration guide just to see exactly how it's done. All we do is kind of go into our email template in this case and just add that directly. So whenever that email template is used in a campaign, it's going to personalize, obviously, the whole email template, including now the image template that's inside there, and it's going to be injected with all the data you have in this case with Active Campaign, and then that will personalize dynamically the image on the fly. So very flexible, very simple. You create an image template once, you add it into your correspondence outreach templates, and then it's just going to personalize dynamically on the fly. In addition to having hundreds of integrations that I mentioned with lots of different outreach tools, we also have the ability to, I'm just going to close that out of the way, ability to kind of do it on a one-to-one manual basis. So like, say for example, if I was in a Gmail, then if I wanted to compose an email, and let's just put an email in here. I'm going to choose Tom, not Tim. You see now that I've gone into the body, this additional button appears. And when I choose that, I can select any of my personalized images that I can then kind of drop in there, and they're going to appear. So in this case, I'm sending this to Tom at Enigma. So now you can see I've got a personalized image in there. It looks like a video preview for a use case. You can see it's Tom, learn how to use it for Enigma Digital Enterprises, and also putting through their logo there. So dynamically dropping them in one-to-one, dynamically doing it, 1 to 1 million, through your campaigns. And again, the same is true for LinkedIn. So, here, for example, let's just open Prakash up in another screen so we can see it. So here, for example, we've got a LinkedIn message, and it looks like LinkedIn profile, should I say. And here we've got the ability to create a short link. So that short link here, when I click that, open up, I can select any of my images. So I can select an image that I've just created. I can choose a title to appear underneath the image, and then a destination URL, so where we're going to send them when they click it. So, for example, if we look at Prakesh here, we saw that I just sent him a message before in terms of to book a course. In this case, you can see we're putting through his profile image and his name, and I'd actually sent a previous one which actually had his YouTube channel on the laptop behind me. And he's and he's ended up being signed up as a partner today, booked a call and kind of gone through that process. But you see now where we can click these images, and now we're kind of putting through all that personalization into the page. So, we can have this hyper personalization simply by adding in personalization from the email or from the LinkedIn message into the web page like this. And again, using Hyperize, it's super simple to personalize your landing pages. So for example, here where we can see the business name, top on media, and we can see Prakash as the as the person's name, and also using those personalization tags throughout the page, visually as well. So in this case, like a strategy report for Prakash's business, top on media, and all of those sort of kind of personalized call to actions. But these are all done simply, using our Chrome extension. So again, it doesn't matter what your website's built in, Hyperize is able to personalize your website dynamically on the fly. So all you need to do is add a little JavaScript snippet to your website, doesn't matter what it's built in, and then we'll be able to personalize it. So let me just load up the Chrome extension here on this website. And what we'll see is before, where we saw top on media, we're now seeing the personalization tag for business name, same again here. And you can see as I move my mouse around the page, it's now all completely editable. So I can select any bit of text, rather than kind of what can you expect from the call, we can maybe change you to a personalized tag. So I say business name, what can business name expect from the call? Or if I select an image on the page, rather than seeing personalization tags, I'm going to see all my personalized images. So this is the one we've just created, and I can also see all the videos I have in my account as well. So if I want to drop in a personalized video on the page, then I could do that, like the one we had here. And that really is the key with Hyperize. It's super simple to use. We have these kind of Chrome extensions that enable you to kind of leverage things that ordinarily wouldn't be possible, in terms of dropping in individual personalized images into email, into LinkedIn, personalizing your existing web pages, all done, without having to kind of do any coding or anything kind of super technical. And then on top of that, with Hyperize within the editor, you can also choose integrations of hundreds of different platforms, and add those, do those at scale. And obviously this is LinkedIn automation platforms, as well as CRMs, chatbots, direct mail, obviously as mentioned before, doing postcards, that sort of thing. So lots of different ways that we can do this, in your CRM as well, for further engagement later down the customer funnel. So that's kind of hopefully giving you some ideas, from a usability perspective. In terms of some of the functionality, obviously we kind of touched on, we can use dynamic text, also screenshots. So if you want to have screenshots within your images, that could be great. For example, within all our businesses, we've used that as part of our link building. Obviously, SEO is another useful tool for every SaaS business to have. And obviously, the value of links doesn't need to be under-egged. And so being able to reach out to people in a delightful way, saying, hey, I'd love to kind of be listed in that article, etc. Doing that by showing a picture of the article, maybe even you next to the laptop, you and a colleague next to the laptop, is a great way of creating that pattern interrupt in a really delightful way. Also, logos are dynamically created either using business emails or web addresses. So if within your email platform or in your CRM, you have business emails, or you have their web domain, their website domain, then we'll be able to generate logos as well. Or even if you're using LinkedIn, pull through profile images. So there's lots of different ways that we can leverage that for the personalization. And obviously, as we mentioned before, we can use that with lots of different integrations with different emails. We've also linked in this deck, I mentioned I will share this, the link to the personalization toolbars, for Gmail, also for LinkedIn as well, being able to use those. And obviously using these personalized short links that we kind of showed before in LinkedIn, they can really have a significant impact in terms of being able to create that engagement in LinkedIn, just because they look so different. And as I mentioned at the start, that less than 1% of LinkedIn messages have images. So you really are going to stand out from the crowd, and that's kind of really what we're trying to do with this sort of strategy. And if you include a personalized short link in a contact note, then when that contact note is accepted, your message is going to pop up with that short link and display itself immediately. So, you know, it's kind of a great way of including one of those at the bottom of your connection note. So when somebody does accept it, they're going to get this beautiful, immediate response that's going to be personalized, you know, you waving or whatever, some other sort of value, you know, and again, that really does help deliver that moment of delight. Of course, we integrate with lots of different platforms, but my personal favorite, the one that we use, is Expanding. They've just launched a V2, which includes email as well. So really is a great platform. We're not affiliated with them in any sort of way, but it's, like I say, I do recommend it because, you know, we've seen many customers get many great results from using that. But like I said, we do integrate with many of the LinkedIn platforms too. But that's kind of, you know, really in a kind of in a nutshell, in a 55-minute nutshell, you know, the idea of kind of image personalization and outreach. And obviously I've touched on it as well, website personalization as well, and kind of creating this hyper personalization, you know, where you've got multiple touch points. So I thought I'd just kind of finish on a couple of examples of that. If you remember, anybody paying attention earlier, we remember we looked at Hub staff who managed to get a 3.5x uplift on their email click-through to kind of going to their sign-up page for trial. So what I thought I'd kind of extend that example just to kind of illustrate the power of hyper-personalization. So what they also did was personalize their landing pages. So you can see here again, personalized to Apple, of course. And you can see the header here is personalized. The call to action on the button is personalized here with the first name. And then, of course, all of the product images personalized too. And this one, you can see, obviously, some product images personalized to Tim here. And what that led to was a doubling of conversions on the page. So when we look at that, again, look at the kind of the numbers for that, the interesting thing was that these two improvements, you know, in the email and on the landing page had a compounding impact. So it's kind of one times the other. So in this case, you know, a 3x uplift on the email and a 2x uplift on the landing page led to a 7x uplift overall across the funnel. So what that means is, in real numbers, for every 300 emails they send out now, they're getting seven sign-ups, whereas before they were getting 1. So it's, you know, amazing uplift by simply introducing these 2 steps to create this hyper-personalization. You know, and that's not just our clients that see that. You know, this is a kind of something that is seen, you know, in pretty much any review or study. And this is a study by HubSpot, and I call this one out just because it was so significant. It was a 6-month study and over 300,000 websites. So, you know, in terms of size and length, you know, quality, it was significant in every sort of way. And what they saw was a 202% uplift on average when personalization was used around the call to action. So, you know, that, you know, kind of backs up kind of the sort of results that, you know, we see and our clients see. But, you know, amazing study, you know, over such a period of time, so many websites that, you know, it's really does kind of stand out. But we've seen obviously much better than that as well. For example, Intercom, you know, they got a 3x uplift when they started to personalize their landing pages with, you know, with company name and custom imagery. So, you know, they really do help. You know, and we see in terms of the kind of the click-through rate of these personalized short links shared in LinkedIn, you know, with people that engage after connection, is crazy high in terms of, you know, that sort of kind of engagement that you wouldn't see without those personalized kind of imagery in there. So I really hope that has been useful. You have you haven't asked a huge amount of questions. I was just checking there, but now certainly is the time. If you have any more questions, you know, I'm more than happy to kind of delve into those now. So let's just kind of swing over there and have a look. So Diego, you're asking, you've seen some personalized images. Is it made one by one? So maybe I've answered that question as we've gone through, but just to kind of make sure of that. No, absolutely not. So the key with Hyperize, it's all about engagement. It's all about leveraging, should I say, and leveraging dynamic images. So yeah. Okay, so Diego, he has confirmed that. Yeah, so absolutely, you create one image template, and, you know, it personalizes dynamically on the fly, and it's all about that leverage. So yeah, fantastic. Glad to have answered that. And Braden, you also mentioned, can we send by SMS? So yes, there are some platforms. I'm trying to think of the ones off the top of my head. High Level, I know, for example, enable send SMS, and so you can add in personalized URLs for the SMS for images, and so you can add. I've sent them myself, personalized images using High Level, and I'm sure there are many other platforms out there that support SMS. It's not one that we see a huge amount of customers using, although a lot of them maybe aren't using SMS. You rely more on email and LinkedIn, but yeah, certainly I know some customers have done that, and it's worked out well for them. Yes, sorry, excuse me, getting frog in my throat. So another question coming in was, can we get a recording of the webinar? Absolutely. I'll be sending that out to everybody that's registered. So I'm sure as you're in here, I have your email address, and it will be winging its way to you tomorrow. Another guy, can you integrate with new platforms to send SMS? Yeah, I mean, absolutely. If you've got a specific platform that you want to use and we don't integrate with it, just hit us up in support. We're always adding new integrations. Always love to add new integrations. Obviously, new integrations means being exposed to new audiences, and of course, who doesn't love new audiences? Frederick, you were talking about NFT. That's something that's been mentioned quite a few times recently. In that, obviously the purpose of NFT, well, not the purpose, one of the features, let's say, of NFT at the moment is it's one image that's slightly altered in lots of different ways. And so we've seen that kind of where users want to have like a base image that then they're adding different layers or different elements to. And yes, we've seen a couple of customers using it in that sort of way. So, it could be done to, kind of mass generate, based on lots of different layers, semi-transparent layers, that could all be interactive in terms of dynamic, what shows and what doesn't, as well as text, etc. So, it could be done with NFTs as well, putting the person's name on a board of a character, for example, creating an NFT that's personalized to them, that sort of thing. So yeah, absolutely. Seen a couple of use cases of that. Cool. Do we have any other questions? I can see we're kind of pushing right up to the hour mark, which is always great to kind of see some questions coming at the end. If you do think of any questions after the event, there are a couple of ways that you can come and learn more. Obviously, Hyperize has a completely free trial, so you can go to hyperize.com, it sounded like I said hyperize.com then, didn't it? You can go to hyperize.com and start a free trial, click the start a free trial button, strangely enough, and that will give you full access to the product, to image personalization, website personalization, and video personalization. And so you can, kick the tires, play the product, prove that it's going to work in your sales and marketing teams, and get the uplift that we've been talking about today in some of these examples. Of course, this recording will be sent to you directly, but like with all recordings of webinars we do, it'll be added to the Hyperize Academy. And so, you get access there. And also we have a Facebook support group. You can get access to the team, ask questions there. So, there's some links there that will be available in this deck that will also be shared with you. But finally, if you do have any other questions, you'll be able to come into our site. There we go. It took a moment to load. We have a chat both inside and outside of the app where you can ask questions, search our knowledge base. It's got hundreds of articles, or even schedule a time to talk to us, whether it be onboarding or support call to do with the platform. So I guess that, also, if you'd like to talk to me specifically, then just check out LinkedIn, and it's Ian Dash. No, sorry, it's not. My apologies. It's Ian Naylor 1. Ian Naylor 1. If you want to reach to me there, or if you want to email me, it's just ian@hyperize.com. So that looks like we have managed to knock out all the questions there. So that just leaves me one final thing, and that's to say thank you very much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure. I appreciate everybody sticking, to all of you that stuck to the end. And like I say, please do give Hyperize a try. I'd love to hear your experience, and jump on a call and help you get the most of it. Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate you saying that. Always nice to have some positive feedback. Great. Thanks very much, everybody. Really appreciate your time. Enjoy the rest of your day, whether it's a little few hours or a long few hours, depending on where you are. Have a great one. Cheers. Bye.